Hello everyone, welcome to DIY Friday with the Mount Airy Branch Library of Carroll County Public Library. This is Miss Carrie. I'm from the Mount Airy Branch Library. I'm the Teen Services Librarian, and I'm really excited to share our DIY Friday activity with you today. Today our activity is beads from reeds. We're going to literally be making craft beads out of paper, and I'm using an old discarded book from the library to make my beads. You're welcome to make beads out of whatever paper you have available at home. You might not want to necessarily pull the pages out of your very favorite book, and you certainly don't want to pull the pages out of a library book that we still have circulating. But I was inspired a few months ago when I found in our library's book sale pile The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. It's book one out of my very favorite YA fantasy series, the Fairyland series by Catherine M. Valente. And it's a beautiful book. The book that we had that I bought from our book sale had some damage to it, which is why we took it out of our circulating collection. But I thought, how fantastic would it be to make it into a craft? And that's where this idea for beads from reeds comes from. But you can, of course, again, use whatever paper you have at home, be it an old beat-up book that you have, or craft paper, or a magazine or newspaper. It'll work great with any paper that you have lying around. So before we get started, make sure that you have the paper available to you, either out of old book pages like I used, or any kind of paper that you have. You'll need scissors so you can cut the strips of paper out. You'll need some glue, and it can just be whatever glue you have will work. Just a basic white Elmer's glue worked fine for my beads. And then you'll want to use a stick that you'll be winding the pages around to make your beads. I used an old chopstick. That was one of those disposable chopsticks that you get with your takeout order. You can use a toothpick. It would just make the hole in the middle of the bead a little bit smaller, but anything will work, a dowel rod. They will get sticky and gooey, so you'll want to make sure that it's something that you're okay with getting sticky and gooey, and you'll probably throw it away after the craft project. And then optionally, depending on what you're going to use your craft beads for, you can decorate them either with paints or markers. I used a little bit of ink from a stamp pad that I have, and string. I use some string to string some of my beads together to make a bracelet. But get creative with your beads. You can kind of make a whole bunch of beads if you like, just to have for your craft projects. Or you can make something specific, like a bracelet or jewelry or a bookmark, whatever you're interested in. So step one of making our actual beads is cutting out the strips of paper. Again, I used mine from the old pages of the book, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland. You can, if you want, go online and look at different paper bead making templates for making different shapes of beads. Because this was my first time trying it, I wanted to keep it super simple. So I just cut straight rectangles right down the pages. It was super easy to keep it straight and go between the lines of words in my book pages. And I used maybe about an inch long strip for each of these beads. But you can do an experiment with various different shapes and sizes of beads as well. So the next thing you do once you have all your paper strips cut out, you'll want to start at one end and tightly roll the paper strip around your chopstick or stick or toothpick that you're using. And you'll want to try to get the paper as tightly wound as you can so it's not really loose or crooked. But it's pretty easy to do. And then once you get to the end of rolling, at the very end of your strip of paper, you just simply place a drop of glue under the end of the strip of paper. And as you kind of smear the glue and get your paper strip to stick, there'll usually be some extra glue that comes out. You can just smear that the whole way around your bead. It'll kind of protect it and be extra glue just binding the whole bead together. You will want to go ahead and remove your bead from your stick while it's still wet. I made the mistake a couple of times of leaving it on there a little too long, and they do have a tendency to stay glued to your stick. So while your bead is still damp, right after you've glued it, go ahead and slip it off the chopstick or your toothpick and set it in a nice safe place to let it set and dry overnight. You'll want to keep the beads kind of separate so they don't all glue together as well. And then you're ready to go. You can decorate your beads for whatever craft projects you have if you want. Like I said, I put a little bit of metallic ink on mine, which is just what I had, an ink pad lying around. And then I made mine into this bracelet here. And I have a lot of beads left over. It's really fun to make a whole bunch of them. It's kind of relaxing because it's such a mindless kind of activity to just keep rolling and gluing and cutting the pages. So it was really a fun, easy, cheap craft. It really saves you a lot of money on getting some beads for your other craft items as well. And like I said, I was inspired by my favorite book series. You can take crafts and be inspired by whatever books you're interested in. I'll read to you just a little bit of information from book 1, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. So if you are interested in checking out this book, like I said, you can get a copy from the library. We have it in our YA section. Of course, right now we're not open to the public to come in, but you can place holds and pick your books up on express pickup, which is really a fantastic service. It's been super popular. So I'll give you a little description of this book. The main character, her name is September. And September is a girl who longs for adventure. When she is invited to fairyland by a green wind and a leopard, well, of course, she accepts. Mightn't you? But fairyland is in turmoil, and it will take one 12-year-old girl, a book-loving dragon, and a strange and almost human boy named Saturday to vanquish an evil Marquess and restore order. Not since Oz has there been a land or a cast of characters so rich and entrancing. So one of the reasons this is my very favorite fantasy series right now is just the author, Catherine Valente. She writes for adults, she writes for teens, she writes for tweens. She has short stories, she has novels and series like this book series, but she's just a really whimsical writer, and it always really makes me happy. And of course, in this book series, she really shows her love for libraries. So one of my very favorite quotes from her book is, "She sounds like someone who spends a lot of time in libraries, which are the best sorts of people." And then I'll read you another little snippet just to give you an example of Catherine Valente's writing. This is in very first chapter of book 1, and it's describing our main character, September, who is the main character throughout all 5 books of this series. So in regards to September, one ought not to judge her. All children are heartless. They have not grown a heart yet, which is why they can climb trees and say shocking things and leap so very high that grown-up hearts flutter in terror. Hearts weigh quite a lot. That is why it takes so long to grow one. But as in their reading and arithmetic and drawing, different children proceed at different speeds. It is well known that reading quickens the growth of a heart like nothing else. Some small ones are terrible and fey, utterly heartless. Some are dear and sweet and hardly heartless at all. September stood very generally in the middle on that day the green wind took her, somewhat heartless and somewhat grown. So that's just a little snippet of The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. It's published by Fievel and Friends, and just a fantastic, fantastic fun book series, kind of in the same vein as Alice in Wonderland or The Wizard of Oz as well. It's kind of in that very traditional fairy tale telling kind of vein, but very modernized and fun. So I highly suggest the series, and have fun making beads. And thank you for joining me for DIY Friday with the Mount Airy Branch Library. Our next DIY Friday is going to be July 3rd. We have a surprise DIY activity that day. So I hope you can join me then. And in the meantime, have a great time. Enjoy your summer so far. And remember to put holds on books through Carroll County Public Library. You can pick them up through our express service now. Have a great day.